Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
As the forensic team would be collecting all of the evidence that they would find in the home of Shad Therian's mother, Tara Packenick would tell the police that the last known person to have seen her son alive would be his girlfriend, Taylor Coronado. As the police were waiting for the collection on the reports of Tara Coronado, not only would they find out that was Taylor Coronado in the system, but was under the name Taylor Schabusiness. While they were also looking in the room, they would also find that in this crudely made shower that was in the basement, they would notice more blood and chunks of flesh in the drains of this crudely made shower. They would also notice around the bed where whoever had cut up Shad Therian's body had tried to clean up the mess, but would do it in a very sporadic and fast way, almost sloppily, trying to take care of all the evidence around the basement. The police would later say it would almost seem as if they would just take a towel and just kind of smear the blood around the floor. As well as they would also find a plastic bag of a crystallized substance over on the table right by a Pac-Man machine that was quickly identified as crystal meth. The police would then take their time over to the apartment of Taylor Schabusiness, and it's there that their investigation would confirm what they had feared, as they would walk up to the van that they would find out was not a van owned by Taylor Schabusiness, but was actually owned by her roommate, but had also known that Taylor and her roommate often used this van. They would notice some blood in the snow and some bloody footprints leading up to the apartment, as well as what would seem to be a bunch of dirty laundry and a crock-pot box in the back of the van. Also going to make a little side note that is imperative that among all the parts that they would collect of Shad Therian in the basement, they would find everything except for a leg and a foot. The police would not have to search very long, as they were investigating the van, they would be encountered by a Taylor Schabusiness walking out of the apartment, and as soon as she would notice the police, she would freeze in her tracks. The police would approach Taylor Schabusiness and notice that she was completely decked out in black sweats. What they would also notice on these black sweats was dried blood on them. They would also notice that her hands seemed to be completely stained red with blood as well, on top of the fact that she had a very deep gash on her thumb. The police would ask Taylor Schabusiness if they knew why they were there, to which Taylor would reply, "I guess you have a warrant for my arrest." Suffice to say, the police were almost adamant that they knew they had their person, but it would not be confirmed until they would open up the van and they would check inside the van and they would peer inside the crock-pot box, and there they would find the missing foot and leg of Shad Therian. I'm going to go ahead and warn you, this next part, you might want to have a barf bag ready, as it is a very disturbing interview with the police. They would arrest Taylor Schabusiness and put her in an interview room, and they of course would put her in some of the prison uniforms, and while she was waiting for the investigators, she could be heard on camera saying, "I fucking hate this outfit." The police would sit down and they would tell Taylor Schabusiness what they had found at the residence of Tara Packenick, where they would say that Shad Therian's body parts had been strung about all over the basement, to which she would respond to, "That's really fucked up." They would even go in further and tell her that they had found the head of Shad Therian in a bucket, to which Taylor Schabusiness would cut the police investigator off and say, "Oh shit, the head. I can't believe I forgot the head." After this revelation, it is there that Taylor Schabusiness would tell the police exactly what happened on that February. A few days prior to the events that would lead up to February in 2022, Taylor Schabusiness would contact Shad Therian and ask about getting drugs and hanging out and partying and possibly engaging in schmecks, to which Shad Therian would agree to, so Taylor Schabusiness would get into her friend's van, pick him up in the van, to where they would also swing around and pick up another fellow friend, AJ. There, Shad would pick up not only crystal meth, but they would also pick up a drug known as trazodone. Trazodone that is specifically used for anxiety. They would use this as a way to kind of calm down from their high from crystal meth. The The group would go over to Taylor Schabusiness's apartment, to where her, Shad, and AJ would engage in smoking meth and doing various other drugs, smoking cannabis, and also injecting themselves with trazodone to calm down. Eventually, AJ would have enough partying and he would leave Taylor and Shad to their own vices, and it's around this time that Shad and Taylor would then go to his mother's place, to the basement, to engage in more smoking crystal meth and engaging in schmecks. Taylor would say on this particular night, it is said that Taylor and Shad had an interest in Euro asphyxiation, or basically schmecks with asphyxiation. And Taylor would tell the police that Shad would bring out a pair of dog collars and would suggest that Taylor asphyxiate him and they would engage in intercourse after the fact. Taylor would be into this, as this was something that she too was into, and it said that Shad Therian would lay stomach down onto the bed and she would take the dog collar, wrap it around his neck, and begin asphyxiating him. Now, some parts of the story would not make sense, as at the time as Taylor was telling the story, she was high on crystal meth. But she would claim that she would be completely enticed by this, as Shad Therian's face would be changing from blue to purple to red. And this also intrigued her, as she was very high and was tripping her out. So the fact that Shad was taking and turning different colors would excite her. But at the same time, she would also become frustrated, because she would claim that Shad Therian's neck muscles were regenerating and she wanted to prevent that from happening. But Shad turning different colors was not enough to make Taylor Schabusiness stop. It had even gotten to the point where Shad would even start coughing up blood, to which she would start applying more pressure. At this point, the police officer would ask Taylor Schabusiness if she enjoyed it, to where she would look the police officer in the face in a very low tone, say, "Yes, it excited me a lot. You should see my panties." After 3 to 5 minutes of asphyxiating Shad, Taylor Schabusiness would be successful in unaliving Shad Therian. And as there, she would tell the police that she would come up with this plan, that she couldn't exactly take Shad's body out of the house, as she was not big enough to carry his entire body out, and would decide that she would just go upstairs, take some knives, and begin cutting off his body parts piece by piece, putting them into bags and totes so she could take them out of the house piece by piece. But this would not be the only thing that she would do, unfortunately. As for the next 2 to 3 hours, she would begin using knives that she had gotten from the upstairs kitchen, 2 butter knives, and a bread knife. She would take Shad's body over to the edge of the bed, and she would place his head over the edge that would be underneath a bucket. And she would begin taking this knife and trying to saw off his head at the base. She would later testify and tell the police that the bread knife actually worked the best. While she was performing this, she would also be performing oral schmecks on Shad Therian's body. The police officer would even ask what was going through your mind while you were doing this, to where Taylor Schabusiness would tell the police, "I have no idea. At the time, the only thing that I could think about was sucking and cutting." After successfully decapitating Shad Therian, she would be exhausted, so she would then take a nap, where she would cuddle with the headless corpse of Shad Therian, and then eventually wake up a few hours later. When she woke up, she would perform more schmexual acts with the corpse, and would even bring out some of her own personal toys and use it on the corpse of Shad Therian. After which, she would also go and take the butter knife and cut off her second favorite part of Shad Therian and completely remove his genitals. She would very disgustingly tell the police how she thought it was very fun to play with his genitals while he was unalive, as it would be half erect. After cutting off his head and his genitals, it's there that she would then cut Shad's body from the waist out, and would cut an incision from his chest and open it up and begin taking out all of his organs and placing them into shopping bags. She would cut off his arms and place them in various parts of the room. One leg she would cut off and stuff inside the empty chest cavity of Shad Therian. It is then next that she would bathe in Shad Therian's blood.